The county morgue can be a pretty grim and depressing place, especially on a slow, boring day. Even the simplest thing as a routine autopsy can produce results so shocking that a seasoned mortician can have their lunch jump back into their throats. Before the doctor lay an average-height, lanky, pale man. The skin of his face is pulled impossibly tight from scarring. His eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, never able to close. His mouth is permanently ripped into a smile across his face. It could be argued that his killing spree has finally brought an end to him. The police finally closed a case of the most twisted mass murderer that the world has ever seen. Maybe karma stepped in and sealed his fate. All are true.
Homicide, plain and simple. Cause of death, severe blood loss due to disembowelment.
No man can die in a burning building and not get burned, Frank.
Well, look at the guy's face. Does he look like a man anymore to you?
Hey man, are you awake?
Yeah, I am. What?
Can't sleep? I never could in a hospital bed like this. Yeah, sorry. Well hey, what happened to you anyway? I mean, why the bandages all over your face?
I was, burned.
Damn. Well that sucks. How did that happen?
Doesn't matter anymore, you know? What about you?
Oh man. Well, I don't have any burns, but you probably can't see that, can you? I had a bit of a car wreck. I got my leg caught and broke it. So I'm wired up to this bed. I'd say I'm fine, but the doctors want to keep me on.
You can't move at all?
What? No, I'm kinda stuck to the heart monitor and lift thing. Why?
Good.
Hey, what are you doing? Should you be getting up? I mean, you're a burn victim.
Have you ever seen a burn wound before on someone's face?
What the? What are you doing? Nurse? Nurse!
Why does everyone scream at my face? Doesn't anyone find it beautiful anymore?
Are you crazy? You can't do that to an IV. You'll kill me. You'll kill me.
Did you ever have that little feeling that you know you really shouldn't do something, but you really just can't help yourself?
No! No, help! No! 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 No!
Go to sleep. Doctors and nurses found the patient with a piece of duct tape over his mouth to prevent him from screaming or calling for help. The poor man's stomach had been ripped open by what the coroner's report would later reflect. Someone's bare hands. Fingerprinted above his bed in red. I'll be waiting. Go to sleep. Jeff walked down the empty street on the outskirts of this town that he had not visited in years. His hometown. Memories began to conflict with the feeling that constantly dominated his mind. Jeff had come to love the feeling. It was a subtle pulling now, a small tugging at the back of his mind, reminding him that he had something to focus on. That soon he would be needing to spill more blood. He walked along the sidewalk past the bus stop. This was the same bus stop that he had a fragmented memory of. Sound of wheels on concrete, a bully, knives. The feeling. The feeling was growing stronger. but the fragmented memories were coming together. Jeff remembered Randy. More accurately, Jeff remembered the hatred that he had for the boy. Randy had destroyed his family, his face. Randy had broken him. Randy was to blame. Jeff would have killed him again if it were possible. Jeff stopped. He was home. He noticed a condemned sign posted by the city on the door. The house looked vacant and derelict from the outside, but Jeff picked up the key that was always kept under the rug, which was now covered in a blanket of dirt and dust, and he entered the house. If he was the first one to get home before his parents or brother did, he always let himself in with the spare key that his folks had got for him. He looked around the house, and everything seemed preserved as if he had just left the house the day before. Not a single thing had been moved or taken down. Jeff fought back the urge to call out to his parents. He knew that he would not be getting a response. He saw to that all so many years ago. The moonlight from outside beamed in through Jeff's kitchen and faintly illuminated the counter and living room. The TV and furniture remained undisturbed. The plastic plants which added a civilized touch to the museum that was Jeff's past life. Jeff expected the power to be out in the entire house, but to his astonishment, the digital clock in Lou's old bedroom glowed an eerie blue, showing the correct time and current date.
Just go to sleep.
Was what Jeff heard in his mind, echoing, becoming faint, as he remembered everything that happened. A part of him just wanted to cry over the loss of his brother, but another part of him, the feeling, felt no remorse. As Jeff was about to explore the rest of the house, he came across his dad's liquor cabinet and pulled out a bottle of whiskey, a stubby glass, and began drinking. Who would go through all this trouble to not have the power shut off? Doesn't the city order a house which is condemned to have its power cut off and its water disconnected? Jeff thought. Jeff's mind could register that something didn't seem right, but twitching and shaking to put the pieces together. The feeling held any deep cognition at bay. Already it was 3:50 a.m. as Jeff sat in the dark, in total silence.
Jeffrey? Is that you, honey?
Jeff recognized the voice. It was soothing and gentle, all too familiar. The glass shattered to the ground. In a flash, Jeff had his knife withdrawn from his pocket, pointing it at the woman who was the first person to startle him since he was a teenager. His gaze remained fixed on her face. He knew what he was seeing was impossible. He remembered, albeit in pieces, what had happened 11 years ago. He remembered murdering his parents. And yet this woman's warm and smiling face beamed back at him. It was Jeff's mom, Margret.
Mommy?
Jeff spoke as though he were a child who just got out of a nightmare and sought comfort from his mother.
Yes, baby, it's me.
Her words burrowed through Jeff's black heart. He seemed to remember.
I thought you were... You...
Shh. It's okay, my sweetie. You were just having a bad dream. Mommy's just fine, see?
I didn't mean to do anything to you or Dad. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Jeff, your father and I know you too well. We know you would never do anything to hurt us. The only thing you ever killed us with is your kindness.
Jeff, tears falling from his eyes which had long remained dry and near lifeless, looked over his mother's face.
Really?
Really. I'm gonna go check on your brother, and I'll come tuck you in. You just finish your drink and go lay down on the couch, son. You had a long night.
Margret kissed her son's forehead. She gently covered Jeff with a quilt as he watched her intently.
Go to sleep.
Wait. What did you say?
She smiled once more, one last time, before vanishing just as quickly as she appeared, leaving Jeff with that last loving image and so many questions. Was that some kind of a ghost? A dream? Was it the feeling playing tricks with his mind? Jeff didn't move.
Go to sleep.
His father, Peter, came in, brandishing a large metal pipe, his guts still hanging out where his son had disemboweled him. Jeff woke up screaming, gasping. He was all right, but he was still in his house. Everything was still in place. He rolled off the couch, wiped the sweat from his face. It was obvious that Jeff was going insane. He was about to head out at the crack of dawn. The phone rang.
Who the fuck could that be?
The caller ID displayed the name
Lou. Hello? Hello? Lou? Hello?
I'm coming for you, Jeff.
Who the fuck?
Jeff sat in the darkest corner of the dimly lit biker bar, hood over his head. He scans the small crowd that has gathered over the night. The bartender makes note of the night being slower than usual to one of the bar patrons. He throws a glance towards Jeff. Jeff, lost in his thoughts, continues to survey the crowd. The larger, taller man goes over to where Jeff is sitting.
What can I get you, son?
Pitcher of beer, a bottle of Jim Beam. Please.
On the rocks, or just with the shot glass?
Jeff's fingers ran across the edge of the knife in his pocket. A thin cut formed on his finger, the blood reminding him of his lust for the sweet sight.
Fuckers, all of them. Not a single one of them worth the spit they're drinking. It's so simple. It would be so quick.
Uh-huh. Who? Hold on, I'll see if he's in. Phone call for Jeff. I'm looking for a Jeff. Here. Don't take forever. We need this phone.
Well, who is it? Hey! Hello? Hello?
No response. However, Jeff did find out who was calling him. At the far end of the building, a beautiful woman who was wearing a blind man's sunglasses and dressed in all black looked over at Jeff, grinning maliciously, taunting him, her iPhone glowing in her hand. She waved at him with a teasing smirk across her face. She left a few dollar bills on the bar counter and walked off with her phone. By the end of the evening, Jeff was in no shape to go back to his hellish home, so he stumbled out of the tavern and checked into a ratty motel for the night. Once inside the lobby, a beautiful woman in a red dress, leaving very little to the imagination, approached him.
Hey there, sweetie. Looking for something? I think I can help you find it.
Really?
Maybe I could, if you have $50 on you.
Jeff withdrew his hand from his hoodie, which he'd been using to keep them warm from the chilled night air. He placed his finger in his mouth, his teeth, pulling the cut that he'd made earlier wider open. The blood on his tongue reminded him that the previous dark-haired woman had distracted him from choosing a target at the bar, reminding him that the blood of this woman might just do for revenge. Jeff tossed the hooker a roll of bills, and they both went to his room. 3 a.m. The noise from the late-night drivers zooming past in their cars masked the final sounds of empty passion from Jeff's hotel room. The woman moved herself to the edge of the bed to stand and get dressed. Jeff sat up as well, watching her from behind her back. His hoodie lay open on the covers beside him. Jeff eyed the knife, and the pale skin of the woman as she retrieved her clothing from the floor. His mind went from fantasy to fantasy. The knife could easily slice her throat, and he could watch her fearfully choke to death on her own blood. Or perhaps he could simply slide the knife between the ribs of her back and watch as her breathing slowed to death from her own internal bleeding.
Go to sleep.
The woman turned about to match eyes with the killer. They looked intently at one another, neither breaking the lock on each other's eyes.
Go to...
Something was wrong. Jeff was distracted. The woman, pulling on the last of her clothing, laid a kiss on Jeff's scarred mouth. Jeff's world began to swim, and things began to fade. Black.
You go to sleep, huh?
Jeff sat up with a start. He grabbed at his jacket till he realized that it was no longer on the covers next to him. He was also no longer on the covers. Jeff glanced about in all directions. He was again fully clothed, but in the kitchen of his old home. From as far as Jeff could gather, he must have been brought here again. Or the feeling was really getting to him. Was all of the other day a dream? Was he really in this house the whole time? Jeff searched for the voice that had spoken to him, expecting to see his mother again, or his decomposing father. But the voice came from a younger man, bottle in hand, and covered in rags. The young man glanced up at Jeff. It was Lou.
Lou? I can't believe it.
Believe it, bro. Man, my side still hurts like a motherfucker after you stabbed me. But there's one thing you forgot. If you're gonna stab anyone, let alone your own flesh and blood, do it in a vital area, not a non-vital, dumbass!
Jeff was almost at a loss for words. This was impossible. Of everyone that Jeff had killed over the years, he could remember Lou. Lou looked him in the eyes when he died. Jeff remembered sliding the knife into Lou's chest. He remembered the blood on the walls from his hands as he ran out of the house. Lou didn't scream or cry. Lou just watched Jeff as he died, as if he was expecting this to happen. Jeff remembered the feeling left him completely for the last time at that point. He remembered the feeling of regret.
Lou, I'm sorry that I tried to kill you. How in the world did you?
How did I stop myself from bleeding, you ask? Well...
He got up, still staggering from the tequila that he was drinking, lifted up his shirt, and showed his brother the place on his side.
While Mom and Dad were asleep, I went to our kitchen, turned on one of the gas burners, and I cauterized it. A little something you learn from watching a few episodes of ER, House, and some of those other medical shows you come across. It hurt like hell, but I'm alright.
I mean, I didn't mean...
Jeff, it's alright. I knew you were just fucking with me. Remember when you kicked those guys' asses for me, bro? That's when to kill. not to kill your own brother. But it was an accident. You didn't mean to stab me. Don't worry about it.
So you forgive me?
Dude, of course I do. Stop worrying, for God's sake. There is nothing in the world that would stop me from loving my own brother. Love you, buddy.
I love you too, Lou.
Hey, well, I've got things to do. I'll see you soon.
Yes. Of course. Soon.
With that, lost in what he could have said, or what he could have done, Jeff stood. He met eyes with his brother again. Thoughts filled his head, thousands at a time. Had his mind not broken so many years ago at Billy's party, he might have been able to make sense of them. He might have been able to ask the questions that were still burning inside of him. He might have been able to feel something more than the memories of what his emotions should be. But he couldn't. Jeff simply nodded, turned his back, and began the walk out of the house and on to the next location. Lou saw Jeff depart into the night until his white hoodie faded from view.
But you sure as hell aren't going to love what's in store for you, you son of a bitch.
As dawn was approaching, Jeff made his way to a sleepy little house in the richer part of town. The neighbors were still sleeping. Those who were getting ready to go to work at this time of morning barely noticed Jeff. Nor did they pay any attention to him. They thought he was just a regular visitor, or random neighbor. Jeff hopped the fence of the house that he'd been laying eyes on, and made his way into the basement from outside. In this neighborhood, you could expect a very low crime rate, and everyone who lived there were honest and trusted people. But from Jeff's point of view, this was the perfect chance to satisfy the feeling. 322 Wilshire Boulevard. The owners of the house, a young couple, were looking for a babysitter at the last moment to watch their 4-month-old child. Luckily enough, they did find someone at short notice. The babysitter was a sweet 14-year-old girl, Victoria. Cheerful, friendly, and kind. The baby boy was sleeping like a rock. After a bath, fresh diaper change, and a change into his baby clothes, the infant's head hit the pillow immediately thereafter. Several minutes later, Victoria received a call on the house phone. Wearily, she answers.
Hello? Huh? Hey, when are you guys coming home?
We'll be back around 10 tomorrow morning. I hope our son wasn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all.
Told you. Honey, you sound tired. Why don't you take a nap?
That's a good idea. I could really use one about now.
If you need us, we'll be at the Econo Lodge. You have our number.
Thanks.
Have a good night's rest, sweetheart.
Night.
Victoria casually beeps the phone to end the call, and tosses it onto the floor. She rests her body on the nicely cushioned pleather couch that is set in the baby's room, and falls asleep. Several hours into her peaceful slumber, Victoria is awakened by a noise below in the basement. Thinking it was just an animal, possibly the couple's dog, she falls back asleep, but the noise becomes louder. Victoria gets slightly more unnerved. She pulls her tired body from the couch and pokes her head out of the doorway. Silence. She returned to the couch and laid slowly back down. Listening intently, she calmed herself.
"911 emergency."
Yes, hello? I think someone's in the house.
Ma'am, you're going to have to calm down. I can't understand you.
Someone is in the house. Someone broke in.
Where are you at, sweetheart?
I'm at 322 Wilshire Boulevard. I'm babysitting tonight. I don't know.
We're sending police up there immediately. Now here's what I want you to do. Are you listening? Go and find a place to hide in the house, like the closet or pantry, and then grab something to defend yourself with.
Victoria, trembling in fear, crept from the baby's room and down the stairs of the house. So far there was no one that she could see. But the noise had come from the basement, hadn't it? She made her way into the kitchen and pulled the largest knife that she could from the drawer. Victoria, in a panic, ran to the pantry and closed the door behind her as swiftly as she possibly could, and huddled into the farthest corner that she could physically get to.
I heard him. He came out of the basement. I heard him. Please help me, please. I'm so scared. I've got a meat cleaver. I'm in the pantry.
Don't be scared, dear. I'll stay with you on the line until police arrive. In the meantime, you just hide. Who's there with you?
The baby! Oh God, I forgot about the baby.
Did you lock the baby's room, honey?
Yes.
The baby will be all right. You just stay on the line with me. Police will be arriving shortly.
Oh, I see him.
Give me the description of the assailant, dear.
I can't talk any louder. He'll hear me. I hope he doesn't hurt the baby.
You'll be fine. What is the description of the assailant?
I'm too scared. I can't.
Tell me, what does he look like?
He's wearing black pants and a white jacket or something. I don't know. Just please help me.
Jeff entered the baby's room. Toys littered the floor of the darkened room. A single beam of light crept through the slit between the curtains, cutting the room in two, separating Jeff and the infant. Jeff continued into the darkness and peered into the crib. Jeff eyed the child silently. Despite having a smile permanently carved into his cheeks, he seemed to be frowning. The infant began to cry at the horrific sight of the killer looming over him. Jeff placed the flat of his knife against the baby's face and watched as the reflection of his own grotesque features mockingly smiled back.
Go to sleep for now, kid. When you see a bit more of the world, I'll be back to save you from it.
Jeff picked up a stuffed bear from the floor around the crib to pacify the baby. The baby's hands gripped at the soft fabric as Jeff turned his back and walked out of the room. At the dreary inn in town, the married couple sat backs to each other, both breathless and exhausted. They had been fighting since the moment that the poor child's mother had put down the phone. The in-town vacation was supposed to help. It didn't.
Maybe we should just go home then.
At this hour, come on, we still have the room for the rest of the night.
I want to see my baby, Marco. Or would you prefer to just sleep in the car?
Marco stood. He'd heard all that he cared to. He gruffly grabbed his keys off the nightstand and opened the door to the small hotel room to wait for his wife. She stepped through the opening and out into the car without a word. It was 5:15 when they left, and they were rushing home as quickly as they could. In the house, Jeff saw the approaching police light beacons, and his immediate thought was that this is all over. He stepped behind the curtain of the open front window and watched for the police officer to make his move. A knock at the door.
Police! Can you open the door, please?
Jeff inched through the shadows, closer and closer to the door. Another knock.
Hello? Is anyone home? If I do not get a response, I will have to break the door down. Hello?
Jeff's fingers went back to the sharpened edge of his knife. Finally. It's been far too long since he was able to taste blood. A creak from the pantry door as the babysitter watched the scene unfold in front of her. Her trembling body drew cold as the realization that she would not be saved from this by the police like she had so hoped.
The police are here. I think they're gonna be killed. Hello, are you still there? No, please, no.
This is your last warning.
Help me, I'm in here.
Jeff heard the scream, but the blood of the police officers was calling to him. He had to satisfy the feeling. The first officer's weapons entered through the doorway to sweep the room. A bullet to the head or a tackle to the ground, a short drive to prison and the gas chamber. But Jeff had been doing this for years since he carved his mark into his family. Jeff slid his knife into the wrists of the first officer and used the tool to pull him into the house. The officer's hands twitched and spasmed, forcing the gun to fire off 2 shots. The noise waking the baby upstairs and turning the babysitter's hysterical cries into screams of pure terror. Jeff stepped into the doorway, withdrawing his blade from the officer's wrists and pushing it into his neck. His partner's wild, panicked eyes could only see the black rings around Jeff's and the gurgling choking of his dying friend. The officer, horrified by the sight, and now with blurred vision, fired his gun directly in front of him. Missing their mark, the rounds only succeeded in putting his partner out of his pain. Jeff dropped the dead body, and with a quick motion of his left hand, grabbed the side of the officer's pistol, pushing it off aim. The officer still pulled the trigger as many times as he was able. It didn't matter. The burns from the discharge against Jeff's hand only fueled his crazed frenzy. The knife found its mark in the middle of this officer's chest and sliced its way up to his chin.
Too long. That's right.
Please don't hurt me, please. I won't tell anyone. Just take the money or the baby. Please don't hurt me.
Jeff pulled Victoria to her feet by her hair. The poor girl's cries grew louder as Jeff put the point of the knife between her eyes and pressed in, slowly.
Just go to sleep. Quiet down, little guy. Or am I going to have to make you quiet?
Outside the house, the car pulled to a stop. The mother and father rushed from the vehicle to the door. Frenzied, the couple had forgotten any issues that may have arisen over the past few days between them, and all they can see now are the red and blue flashing lights and hear the cry of their baby. They rushed their way up the stairs and into the baby's room. Immediately, out of maternal instinct, the mother picked up the child to comfort it and to assure herself that he was okay. However, despite her efforts, the baby continued to cry. The family collapsed to the floor together in an embrace.
Oh, this? No, I'm just keeping an audio log, miss.
Oh, you mean so you can turn that one in, or is it like notes?
Yes, it's kind of a way that I take notes so that I can type up my report later.
Oh, that's just a bit odd. All the other police officers just had a pen and pad.
Yeah, I'm a bit too lazy for the pen and pad. Besides, miss, I'm not the police. Agent Marcus East, FBI, remember?
Yes, so much more well-mannered than the police, too.
Well, thank you, miss. I appreciate that. But I'm afraid we need to be getting to the darker part of this conversation.
Of course.
I'll try and make this quick. For my recording, and to confirm this with you, I'm just going to go over to the police reports here. Break-in at 322 Wilshire Boulevard, but it seems that all valuables are accounted for? No missing electronics, jewelry. Was that right?
That's right, but there was a small amount of cash taken from the drawer in our bedroom. $80, I think.
Right. Of course. I'm sorry to bring this up again, but I have to confirm. We have 3 victims, homicide. 2 are officers from the local police department responding to the 911 call that was placed by the 3rd victim, Victoria Brandt, who was babysitting for you on that night.
Yes. She would babysit for us when we would go out of town on weekends. Or to our sessions.
Thank you, miss. I'm sorry. We'll move on. Your son, thankfully, completely unharmed. Thank God. Was that right?
Yes.
And the only thing found was a note with Miss Brandt. Jeff, if you're reading this, know that no matter how many innocent victims you claim or how much innocent blood you shed, I'm still coming for you in the end. All of the men and women you so viciously slaughtered and disemboweled. I never did like you, you greasy-headed, grinning, smug, ignorant son of a bitch. My black eyes may look like I'm void of vision, but I'm not stupid. Just remember, the night that you creep into a poor girl's bedroom, you're gonna fall head over heels down the fucking stairs with your guts caught on the broken glass of the window I smashed you into. Tonight, when I reach you, evil will battle evil. Winner kills all, and the only one who will not get out alive is you. I'm coming for you. Signed, Jane the Killer. Miss, do you know a Jeff? Is that a friend? Someone you've seen around the neighborhood? A name from somewhere in this town? Miss Brandt's boyfriend, perhaps?
Not at all. I don't know a Jane, either.
Of course. But I'm sure that the previous officers got any information about Jane. Have you seen anyone that might have been Jeff leaving the house? Heard from a neighbor where the man might be headed?
No. Agent East, shouldn't you be more concerned with who wrote that note than who it was for?
Right, you are. Right. You see, we've been tracking a son of a bitch named Jeff. Almost had him too, but like an idiot, I thought to let him wander a bit too far. Then something like this happens. If there wasn't anything else, miss, maybe I should be...
Agent East, please. You have to find these people. This person, this murderer. Green Baby died in my home, and God knows what he did to my baby.
Ma'am, please, I assure you. I've been following Jeff for a while. I'm going to find the son of a bitch.
I'm sorry. He's been crying so often since last night.
May I? Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And if
that mockingbird won't sing, Mama's gonna buy you a diamond ring.
What? How did...
That should be everything I need, miss. And don't go to sleep.
You might not wake up.
A light rain began to fall as the nighttime was quickly approaching. The wind and splashing from passing cars helped to clean off the now, once again stained hoodie. The caked blood leaked off his clothing with the rain as it grew heavier, and formed a small river of red behind him. The feeling that had begun so long ago was gone for now, but Jeff knew that it would be back soon. He could only think clearly for a short while, long enough for the pieces to start falling into place. This woman from the bar that knew his name, the hooker from the hotel that knocked him out, the odd note that he'd found in the baby's room. Who could be following him? And if they really hated him so much, why didn't they kill him already?
Fuck. Who the fuck is Jane.
The feeling was inching back into his mind. More violence, more blood. He wouldn't be able to think soon. His hands returned to his pockets. The edge of the knife that he had already cleaned and resharpened to a razor's edge. The feeling would be too much soon. He needed help. Maybe now there was finally someone who could help him. Jeff needed to return back home. The light rain had picked up to a thunderstorm by the time Jeff reached his old house at the edge of town. A crack of thunder and a shatter of glass. Jeff was in the house. The sound of rain outside echoed through the broken window.
Hey, Jeff. Ha! I should have known you'd come back if I waited. I almost thought you'd stopped caring.
Jeff turned around, and before he could say anything, Lou took a trophy off the shelf, and a wet crack rang through Jeff's ears.
You go to sleep.
Jeff's world went black. Jeff woke up in a living room full of industrial tools and assorted drills, knives, and hammers. The room seemed to be built like a class for anyone who wanted to get into carpentry.
Where the hell am I?
I've been waiting a long time for this, Jeff.
Jeff saw as Lou's features evaporated from his face, peeling off of him in a thick cloud of smoke. The young male's skinny frame transformed into the luscious curves of a woman in a tight black dress, with oddly only solid black orbs for eyes. Pouted lips smirked at him with a familiar teasing smile.
You're the bitch from the bar!
Jane turned on a utility light, gripped it, and turned it toward herself. Her skin was pale like a corpse, and contrasted by the curled raven hair that fell to her mid-back. In a way, she was a beautiful woman, but the air about her seemed to be as ugly and dark as the aura that surrounded Jeff.
I told you I'd be coming for you in the end. Oh, and did I mention, your brother fit me like a glove. So did
your mother.
Your father.
The paper boy. But your features. I'll be glad to peel the skin off your face, Jeffrey. Finally bring your little rampage to an end.
Really now? And why would you...
Why? Why? I'll tell you why, you little piece of shit! A little town called Bellevue, Illinois. Remember it? Oh, right. You're a psychotic fuck. I guess you don't. So let me remind you. 11 years. I've been searching for you for 11 fucking years. Since I was 10. Since you told my parents to go to sleep. Since you overlooked my room. Since I mopped up all the fucking blood. You sick psychotic fuck.
You're right. I don't remember a single second of it.
You're going to regret everything that you've done to me.
You missed my throat. My face has plenty of holes in it as it is. Poor Jane the murderer. Parents are dead and she's going to bitch and whine. Your little knife.
Fuck you! What do you get off calling me a...
Please. Black eyes, that little smoke and mirrors trick. You don't do what I do without seeing some shit, lady. Demons, monsters, tall motherfuckers in the woods. It comes with the territory. Pathetic little teenager makes a deal with the devil, and that kind of deal doesn't come cheap. Oh, you need blood. A lot of blood.
The blood leaking out of Jeff's mouth dripped onto his chest and arms, granting him just enough wiggle room to slip his hands out from the restraints and vaulted his foot into Jane's stomach, knocking the woman to the ground. Before she could move to pick herself up, Jeff continued the brutal assault by throwing the wooden chair itself at her, breaking it over her back, an act that would have crippled a lesser woman.
I like your playpen, Jane.
Taking a fistful of Jane's hair, Jeff began dragging her to the wooden table at the edge of the room. In her daze, her only thoughts were that this didn't go as she had envisioned it for so many years. Her only thought was to panic.
Really? You couldn't have caught me at a better time. I've been so hungry for your blood since I saw you in that bar.
As he forced her arm in place, Jeff couldn't help but marvel at how her arm seemed to be made for the metal vise. It fit perfectly, almost like they were always intended to go together. The sound of snapping bone and torn muscles from the woman's wrist echoed through the home. Jane frantically gripped in all directions, reaching for a tool of some kind, anything that she could use to escape the unbearable pain. The first handle that she could find, she clamps her hand on and swings with all of her strength at Jeff's legs. Jeff fell to the ground from his shattered bone. Bewildered, Jane inspected the hammer that she now had clamped tightly with her left hand. Wonder quickly gave way to pain as she was snapped back to reality. Jane desperately clawed at the vise, untwisting it as quickly as she could to free her mangled hand. She stared at the now useless appendage. The device had applied so much pressure that it split the skin and crushed every bone, leaving her wrist looking like a broken balloon full of jello.
Die, you bastard! Die!
Blood leaked from the walls, more than should have been possible to be in Jeff's body. The thunderstorm outside of the house churned the skies above, the clouds forming an opening. These were no longer two people. These were demons at war with one another. A stray bolt of lightning ignited the attic of the old home. The walls transformed from dripping blood to a putrid-smelling inferno. Jane stepped back from Jeff's twitching body, leaving him broken in a pool.
Fucking bitch.
Don't go to sleep, Jeff. I need you awake for this.
Jeff picked himself, shaking, off the ground. Putting pressure on his leg caused a sickening crack. The pain from it was blinding, but not as blinding as the feeling was at this point. Fuck the tools. The power tools, the saws, the hammers. Nothing would satisfy Jeff like this would. He withdrew the knife from his pocket.
I'm not going anywhere.
You took my life, Jeff. You took it away from me, and this moment is all that I could think about for the past 11 years.
I haven't taken it yet. Give me another minute.
Jeff limped slowly towards Jane. He had been crippled by the hammer, and his blood loss had turned his vision into a blur. Jane rose her arms from her sides, and the room around them seemed to be shifting, darkening. The whole house was becoming Jeff's personal hell. His mother and father stood beside Jane, just as he remembered them. Gutted, bloody, dead.
Why did you do this to us, son?
We didn't lie to you. We never did. We were trying to protect you, honey.
You could have been with us, Jeff. We're happy and safe where we're at, bro. But sadly, you'll be cleaning toilets in hell.
Cut after cut from his own family. They surrounded him, chanting, cutting him deeply with saws and screwdrivers from the carpentry house of horror. Jane laughed in Jeff's face.
Do you see the pain? Everything you've lost? What you've done to yourself? Do you feel what I felt, Jeff? This is what you've done to everyone else. This is the monster that you've let your insanity become. This is...
You give me way too much credit, Jane. I don't give a shit.
You...
Go to sleep.
The house burned. On the cold metal slab of the morgue, before the doctor, lay an average height, lanky, pale man. The skin of his face is pulled impossibly tight from the scarring. His eyes stared blankly at the ceiling, never able to close. His mouth is permanently ripped into a smile across his face. This is Jeff, also known as Jeff, the killer.
Homicide, plain and simple. Cause of death, severe blood loss due to disembowelment.
Frank, you can't be serious. You heard that they pulled this guy from a fire, right?
I read the police report, yeah, but there's not a single burn mark on the guy. Do you see the charring? 'Cause I sure as hell don't.
So, let me get this straight. You're suggesting that someone burned his clothes, and then dressed him in them, and then dumped his body in the house after the fire?
I'm suggesting this guy was in one hell of a knife fight before dying of blood loss in that house.
No man can die in a burning building and not get burned, Frank.
Well, look at the guy's face. Does he look like a man anymore to you?
Jeff's eyes refocused on the doctor's face. Nine months later, again in the cold, lifeless morgue with two of the most criminally insane humans ever to walk the earth. In front of the coroner lay a beautiful, young, black-eyed woman. Dead. When the police found her body, she was lying on a table, hands and feet chained to it, with a message scrawled on the walls. I'll be waiting. Go to sleep. Cause of death? Childbirth.